Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about what to do with our balcony gardens over winter. So let's get straight into it. Things first, let's feed the fish. These Japanese rice fish are super hardy. That means I can leave them outside all of winter. This is perfect for me because it means that I've got a free source of fertilizer for all of my winter veg. It's been super windy out here for the past 3 days or so. There's been a storm and unfortunately the garden has taken a complete battering. Containers have been blown all over the place. Quite a few of the plants have got wind damage and the wind completely threw out all the contents of my greenhouse. First things first, you need to think about the different types of plants that you have. So if you've got an annual, for example, now that we're going into winter, the likelihood is their cycle has ended. However, if you have something like a perennial, so a salvia, a geranium, these can live on to the next year. However, you also need to know whether or not they're hardy. What that means is, can they survive a frost? For example, this pot of geraniums behind me, they will be absolutely fine on the cloud garden as so long as they're protected from the frost. However, where they currently are, the glass isn't there to protect them. It's that they will die in the frost if I keep them at that same location. So what I'm going to have to do is dig them up and then put them somewhere else on the cloud garden. I'll then replace them with one of my new crops that I've been growing inside, probably something like a spinach, and that is frost hardy and that will do just fine in those containers over winter and throughout spring. The area behind me is currently where I've got a whole bunch of my containers, and so what I'm doing is I'm using the penguin method. That's what I call it anyway. I bunch up all of my containers into one area and that helps with the wind, but it also helps keep the plants insulated. As you can see, I've got 1,000,001 containers. I'm choosing to continue growing in all of these containers throughout winter. Normal gardening channels will tell you if you're not using the containers or if you've got certain plants, bring them inside to your garage. As balcony gardeners, the likelihood is that we live in apartments, so that's just not really applicable to us. If you choose to not grow through winter, what you can do is remove all of your spent plants, cover the container with a layer of mulch. It could be straw, old leaves, or even with a fresh layer of compost until next year. Then use the steps that I showed you in my how to revitalize soil video and you're ready to go in spring next year. If you are going to grow throughout winter, there are a couple of things that you need to consider. Another thing to think about with your container garden is what type of pots it is that you're actually using. So something like a terracotta pot over winter will not do very well. In fact, it'll probably start to chip away as the temperatures dip. Your plastic pots and your plastic containers, they will fare a lot better throughout winter. And for me personally, what I find on my cloud garden is metal containers are absolutely a no-go for winter, and I think it's probably to do with the fact that that metal is conducting the temperature through to the roots of the plant. So I found that anything over winter that is in the metal container for me on my garden dies. So what I'm going to have to do now is either choose to bring inside some of those plants, like my strawberries for example, or perhaps maybe dig it up, or just accept the fact that whatever's in the metal is going to die. But you know me guys, I can't do that, so I'm going to be digging up whatever's in metal containers and just leaving those until spring next year. It's so important to understand the microenvironment of your balcony. So for me, my balcony is completely protected from frost with the glass. However, from wind from either direction, my garden will get battered. Now when it comes to sunlight, on the left hand side of my balcony will get the least amount of sun over winter, and the right hand side gets a lot more. So when I'm doing my winter sowing and my winter planting, everything that I want to thrive, I'm going to really try to grow in the right hand side of my balcony. And then there are certain plants that can deal with a little bit less sunlight and will be perfectly fine. For me, what I found is my spinach has been absolutely fine on the lower light side of the cloud garden. This year I'll be planting a lot more spinach on the left hand side of the garden. Now that the temperatures are dropping, I will harvest everything that I possibly can now from the plants that are not frost hard. That way I won't lose anything, and if need be, what I can do is I can take some cuttings of some of those plants and propagating anything that I can to put out for spring next year. Let's head over to the tomatoes and I'll show you what I'm going to be doing with the tomatoes over winter. We're in November now and my tomato plants are still pushing out fruit. I've mentioned in previous videos that my tomato plants are not fully staked. Coming into winter, as long as I keep them behind the glass, they won't die. As an experiment, I'm going to try and keep these going again throughout winter. In order to do so, I'm going to have to move them away from the glass, as if they touch the glass whilst it's frosted, the plant will die. If you're unable to do this with your balcony garden, what I would suggest is do a complete harvest of your plants and then take off a sucker, propagate your suckers in water, and then plant them up in soil through winter. By the time spring rolls around next year, you're going to have your own batch of tomato plants ready to plant out next year. Whether I want to admit it or not, it is time for the peppers to come to an end as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a separate video showing you how to overwinter the peppers. Peppers are actually a perennial shrub. They don't like cold weather and will go dormant over winter. So do not dig them up and throw them away, because with the right care, they'll come right back. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, because I'm going to show you how to overwinter them. Dill and basil don't do well in the cold. If you do have basil outside, now's the time to propagate or bring your basil plant inside. You'll find that your mint, thyme and rosemary are frost hardy, but they will go dormant. To give them a fighting chance, what you can do is put some mulch around the top layer of the pot. I've got a video on my channel all about mulch, so if you do want to know more about mulching, check that video out. I'll leave a description to that down below in the description box. Tonight actually happens to be the very first night of the year where the temperatures have dipped below freezing. In fact, you can probably see all those things that I've been talking about for this video. I really need to get a move on and implement. So I'm going to start to do this tomorrow to make sure that my garden is fully protected. If you're a container gardener, I'll leave a link to my Facebook group in the description box. If you need any advice or help or encouragement, join our Facebook group and there will certainly be somebody on hand to give you a bit of advice. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, don't forget to give this video a like, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye!